Good evening. Welcome to Football League World TV. It's time for yet another edition of the Transfer Zone. We're now less than 5 hours away from the transfer deadline. As you can imagine, it's been an incredibly busy day already in the EFL. I am Ben Wignall. I'm joined by my colleague Chris Gallagher. We're going to run through some of the latest done deals and rumours. Chris, how are you getting on? It's been a pretty hectic one so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty frantic, isn't it? And I'm sure there'll be a lot more twists and turns in the next 4 or 5 hours, so it'll be a long night.
It will be a long night indeed, as ever. We're broadcasting as ever on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. If you've got any comments about the latest EFL transfer news, then please feel free to do so and we will feature them in the show. Now let's get straight to it with some news from Nottingham Forest. We mentioned earlier that Sam Surridge could be heading to Nottingham Forest from Stoke City. 2 million fees being agreed, and now they could be bringing Jonathan Panzo from French League One side Dijon. He's an ex-Chelsea youth international. He's currently at the training ground right now, according to reports, for talks and a potential medical if a deal can be agreed. Chris, is this a good signing for Forest? You know, he's a left-footed defender. They play three at the back, so, you know, could he potentially provide not only, you know, a bit of balance in the back three, but potentially, you know, cover at wing back. You know, they've got Max Lowe out there, and Gaetang Bong doesn't seem to be favoured anymore. So does he, you know, provide a bit of depth if that deal happens?
Yeah, I think this would be a good signing as well. I think anyone who saw them against Cardiff, when you're making Jordan Hugo look like Usain Bolt, you've got a lack of pace as well at the back. So I think he'll definitely help on that front. I think Steve Cook and Scott McKenna are both good players, but that performance over the weekend was pretty alarming, and it did say that they need another option at the back, and I think Panzo ticks a lot of boxes. As you mentioned, he's left-footed. I think we all know how the modern England youth defenders defend. Now it's like there is a big focus on your technical ability as well as your defensive ability, so I think he's someone who can play out as well. So he's a good option in that sense as well in terms of building up attacks. So yeah, I think for the mentioned fee, I think talking 2 million is it. I think there's a lot to like about this because you've got a player who can grow, who Cooper will look to develop. So yeah, and as you've touched on, he could also play wing back if necessary. So that is another reason why he would be a good signing.
Yeah, it might be a triple deal as well. Obviously, Surridge and Panzo are both in talks, but also in the last hour, the Athletic reporting that Nottingham Forest getting closer to meeting the valuation for Blackpool's Josh Bowler. They've been interested in the Blackpool man all window. Chris, do you think that's going to be a very exciting addition as well if that comes off?
Yeah, I do. I think they deserve a lot of credit. I think you look at the board, that is the Forest board. You look at Middlesbrough as well. They've been targeting players for winning promotion this season. I think Forest are in a similar boat. They've kept hold of Johnson. They're looking to add a few proven players as well. So yeah, they're going to give. There will be no excuses for Cooper. I think he's been backed. He's kept key men, and he'll have depth in every position you need. So yeah, I think they're ready to go, and I think teams in the top six will be very worried about how Forest can do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they're definitely in good form before Sunday's result anyway, and they're definitely adding to that team. They could be three very good additions, to Steve Cooper's squad. Now, speaking of Forest, their bitter rivals, Derby County, could be set to lose one of their talented youngsters. Luke Plange, the striker who not long arrived at the club, could be set to join Crystal Palace, and if that happens, a loan back to Pride Park has been sanctioned by the EFL. Derby was said to want £1 million for the 19-year-old who has 3 goals in 8 championship appearances this season. Wayne Rooney said after the Birmingham game yesterday that no players will be leaving, but it does seem like Plange will be departing, but swiftly coming back on loan. Chris, have you been impressed with Plange in the short time he's been a first-team player at Derby, and you think he can be, you know, integral to their survival chances?
Yeah, I think anyone who saw his goal against Birmingham, that was like a real quality finish, so that shows what he's about. And I think his first goal, for the club as well, was a real poacher's effort, like in the box, right place at the right time. So that suggests there's a lot to his game that can make him a good option. So I think for Derby fans, on one hand, you're gutted to be losing such a exciting talent like that for £1 million, but they've got to have eyes on the bigger picture, haven't they? They've got to know that this money is needed to help the club. So the main thing that they can do is make sure they get him back for the rest of the season, because he will have a role to play. And the miraculous escape is on, isn't it? There's 7 points from Reading. So they'll have them in their sights. And if they're going to do that, Plange will have to keep finding the nets at the rate he has done. So I think in the circumstances, this is as good a deal as Derby could get, and it's crucial for Rooney that he's got him for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely one that's much needed. Obviously, the bigger picture at Derby is very apparent, and hopefully that money can help generate potentially, the proof of funds that Derby do need to prove to the EFL. Now, let's move to a piece of League One news now. Aidan O'Brien set to join Portsmouth from Sunderland, both very much in the promotion mix in League One. O'Brien's in the last 6 months of his deal at the Stadium of Light, and it's allowing him to join Pompey on a permanent basis. It's the second bit of business between the clubs, actually, after Denver Hume's arrival at Fratton Park last week. Chris, is this a good signing for Portsmouth? He provides versatility. He's got experience in not only League One, but the Championship. Obviously, Sunderland fans haven't always been too complimentary of O'Brien and his performances, but he does find the back of the net, and he does provide options going forward, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think it's a decent sign. I wouldn't be too excited if you're a Portsmouth fan, but their situation is that they need numbers, really. They're lacking. They sold, obviously, John Marquis this month. They've brought a few in, but it's still, you'd say they're at least one short. So, as you touched on there, his versatility is a big factor because it does allow him to play in a few positions, and it can allow Cowley to maybe tweak formations if he wants to. So that's always a positive. And as you said, he's experienced. In January, you don't really want to be taking risks. And in O'Brien, they've got someone who will be able to he knows what the league's about. He'll be able to fit in. He'll be able to play to the way Portsmouth want. And there isn't a risk in that sense. So yeah, I'm not sure he will score the goals that they need to stay in the top six or to get into the top six, but it's a decent signing, isn't it? He wasn't going to play at Sunderland with all the business they've done. So yeah, I think this is one that he definitely had to go, and I think it's a good chance for him to show to Portsmouth what he can do. It's a good move for him, certainly.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't think that'll be the last we've heard of Sunderland tonight in terms of both incomings and outcomings. Now let's move back to the Championship briefly. Cardiff City want Casey Palmer on loan from Bristol City, according to local reports. There's a potential double swoop on the horizon there for Cardiff, with a fresh offer in for Naki Wells after the collapse of the move for Sam Surridge, who's obviously set to sign for Nottingham Forest. Palmer's out of favour at Bristol City this season. He's played just 6 times in the Championship under Nigel Pearson. Could this be a decent signing for Cardiff, Chris? Obviously, he's not played that much Palmer this season, but we know what he's about on his day. Do you think Steve Morrison can, potentially tap into, the obvious abilities that he's got going forward?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Palmer. He's always had the ability to do something different in the final third. I think that's what Cardiff are lacking. I think their scoring goals has been a problem, and a lot of the goals had come from Ryan Giles, which were set pieces and crossing. So I think they need to, obviously losing him hasn't helped, but they need to try and mix up the way they play a bit. So I think Palmer is someone who will be able to beat a player in the final third, pick a pass, and just try something different, because they have been predictable at times with just trying to get it wide and get it into the box. So, it'll be interesting. This is Palmer's now. His career has stuttered a bit, really. He hasn't kicked on to the level that some people had hoped, because there was a lot of expectation around him a few years ago. So, yeah, this is a chance for him to show what he can do. But for Cardiff, I think they need to take a risk, really. They need someone who can provide a bit of magic, and he could be the player to do it. And it's now down to Morrison to get the best out of him, which will be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, it's clear to see what Morrison wants in his squad, a bit of championship experience and attacking flair to add to his youthful options. I don't know how close that is to being done. On Naki Wells, the offer went in earlier on, and there's also interest in Palmer. We'll see if that one happens. Now, let's look at another championship team that's struggling in Reading. Their Romanian striker, George Puskas, is set to leave the club. He's going to Pizza on loan from, in the Italian second tier. There's an obligation, according to reports, to buy him for €5 million if Pizza get promoted to the Serie A at the end of the season, and Reading will also retain a 20% sell-on clause if that move does become a permanent one. Is it safe to say, Chris, that Puskas is, disappointed since he arrived from Inter Milan? He came for a big transfer fee, and lots was expected of him, but he's kind of failed to fire since he arrived at the Royals, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of excitement and hype around him when he joined, and yeah, as you say, he hasn't delivered really. I think this season's been particularly disappointing because Reading haven't had strikers. Lucas Shaw's been injured, Yaku Mate, so he's had to be the main man, and I think he scored 1 goal in 25 games in the league, which obviously isn't good enough, and it's a big reason as to why Reading are now in a relegation battle. So you could argue they shouldn't let him go in terms of depth because those two that I've just mentioned are coming back from serious injuries. So you maybe want to keep him around. But I think the reality is this is too good an offer to turn down because I think Pisa are second in the table, 2 go up, so they're firmly in the hunt to go up. And if you can get €5 million for him, it's a great bit of business. So I think all Reading fans will have one eye on Serie B for the rest of the season and hoping that they can have a few quid coming in the summer.
Yeah, definitely with their kind of financial issues, it kind of makes sense to make that happen. We don't know if there's going to be a replacement coming in, but it's one to keep an eye out as well. Our final piece of news comes from Sunderland. We said they might be busy this evening. They're all waiting to see if Jermaine Defoe does sign on the dotted line. He's hinted on Instagram that something might be in the pipeline, but Sunderland are actually in talks to sign another player. Fleetwood Town's young midfielder Jay Matete said to be in talks, according to the East Anglian Daily Times. Ipswich were linked with a £650,000 swoop for the 20-year-old in the last few days, but that's not come to fruition, and instead he's in talks with the Black Cats. Is this a potentially interesting move, Chris? Obviously, he'd be moving to a much bigger club in Sunderland from Fleetwood. He's been getting a lot of experience there all this season. He clearly seems, like a talented midfielder. I've seen described as the League One Kante to some. Is that an area that Sunderland you think needed strengthening this month? Did you expect more experience though instead of a young lad to potentially be coming in?
Yeah, I actually think this could be a really good signing, and as you mentioned, it's one that's going to slip under the radar because there's obviously bigger things going on in terms of the manager, and Defoe is going to attract the attention if or when he does sign. So yeah, this isn't one that's going to get the headlines, but I do think it's a real smart bit of business. I think with 09 and Carl Winchester's been having to play in defence. 09's injured, so they're actually quite short on numbers in the middle of the park, and he's someone who can come in and help them for the here and now. But also, when you look at his age, he could be a good player for the years to come. So yeah, I think this is a good signing. I think the fact Ipswich were interested as well shows that this is a player who hasn't gone, like, he may be under the radar in terms of the fans here, but the clubs obviously know and recognise that he is a talent. So yeah, this could be a very good signing and one that can help them now, and one that we look to in a few years as a very good bit of business.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that one gets done. He's clearly an exciting talent. He's one that could just jump straight into the first team. There's a lot going on in the next few hours. We're expecting Bournemouth to do a lot more business. The likes of Kiefer Moore, Todd Cantwell and Siriki Dembele could still all be coming into the Cherries by 11 o'clock. So they have a club to keep an eye out on, and some other confirmed deals in the last hour or two. Jordi Osei-Tutu, who was on loan at Nottingham Forest in the first half of the season's headed out to high flyers in League One Rotherham. So it'll be interesting to see if he can, get over his injury struggles this season. And also Middlesbrough have relocated Hayden Coulson from his loan spell at Ipswich. He's gone to Championship side Peterborough until the end of the season. And one more recent done deal in the Championship, Jed Steer has joined Luton Town on loan from Aston Villa. There was talk that Alex Palmer might be heading there from West Brom, with Simon Sluga, the club record signing at the Hatters, heading to Ludogorets in Bulgaria, but Steer is the man to replace him in between the sticks. Well, that's it for now. Please rejoin us at 8 p.m, where we'll be recapping more done deals and the ones that will be hanging in the balance in the final hours of the window. So please join us in less than 2 hours for that. Until then, we'll see you later.